liberals or conservatives. We have yet as a nation to address the issue of global climate change. We have yet as a nation to begin to address the issue of our overdependence on foreign oil. We're all paying now $4 a gallon. They tell us we may pay more. We have yet as a nation begin to truly address the ills that infect our economy. We've started to address the issues related to the home lending crisis. We're about to enter into a new phase in the lending crisis, which is student loans, and the inability of those that are going to college to obtain the financing they need. That will require an enormous effort by the federal government to make certain that America's young people are not denied the opportunity to go to college because of the extended effects of the lending issues. As a nation, whether you were for the war in Iraq at the beginning or not, we have not begun truly to address all of the consequences that the Iraq war has foisted on our nation. I was reading an article in the newspaper today that I think should send a chill up every American spine. We have passed a milestone in the Iraq war. And that milestone is a very sad one. And that milestone is the fact that we have lost more Iraqi war veterans to suicide than we have on the battlefield in combat. Now think about that statistic again. Not in the context of whether or not the Iraq war was something you opposed or favored, but in the context of how we as a people cherish and respect those among us, men and women, who wear our nation's uniform and go out in the most horrific environments to protect us. And then they come home, and we do not provide for them the health care and the mental services that they so justly deserve. What does that say about us? Whether we be Democrats or Republicans, what does that say about us? And what I would respectfully suggest is that if we do nothing else in the next 3 months, that we begin to honor the service of those men and women. Memorial Day would have been a nice time to start, but we begin to honor the service of those men and women who have given so much and their families given so much by making one part of the federal government literally without limit, and that be the health care benefits of those people who serve in our own forces. We are still effectively the only industrialized nation on earth that does not provide universal health care for our citizens. That needs to change. It needs to change. I've seen the entire shift with this issue. When I first started in public office 18 years ago in the Florida Senate, by and large it was the most progressive, the most liberal people in the community that would come up to me and say, Wexler, we need universal health care. Wexler, we need a one-payer system. Now it's not just the progressives. Now it's the people at the Chamber of Commerce. Now it's a lot of small business people, a lot of people that have been lifelong Republicans say to me, Wexler, I can't afford to hire people anymore because I can't pay for their health benefits. Wexler, I'm losing my best employees because I can't afford the type of health benefits they need, so they're going somewhere else. Or they're moving to North Carolina. So this is a problem today now, health care, that is so beyond the partisan divide, it affects everybody. And it infects our economy. And we as a nation in Washington, it's not a problem that can be ultimately resolved at the state level, because prescription drug benefit, so-called prescription drug benefit, that the Congress passed. It needs to be changed. And it needs to be changed, in my view, in this way. There are two very simple changes that do not require hundreds or thousands of pages of legislation. The first and most important thing that we as a nation can do takes one or two sentences of legislation. And it simply says that the Congress of the United States authorizes the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services to negotiate the price of prescription drugs for our seniors. Simple as that. And then when we pass that for our seniors, then we ought to expand it to every American from the time they arrive on this earth. That, in my view, is not a Democratic proposal, it's not a Republican proposal, it's a proposal that makes sense, that meets the health care and prescription drug needs of our people. Let me talk quickly, if I could, about schools. Schools, of course, are the domain of local government. We have school boards that run our educational system. We have state systems that run our universities. But the federal government also has a role. And the federal government has a role to set an agenda, in my view, that sets the stage for whether or not the United States will continue to be a middle grade education provider at the secondary and elementary levels. We have fantastic universities, but at the middle, high school, and elementary grade levels, our students are not getting nearly the resources and the attention they need, principally with respect to sciences and math. At the federal level, we need, in my view, to prioritize those skills that young people need today to compete effectively in a 21st century economy. If we are going to provide the genius that provided the energy for the computer age in America in the early 1990s, that created hundreds of thousands of extraordinarily well-paid jobs in the 90s. We need now, in 2008, 2009, 2010, to invest in the sciences. There is no reason in the world why America should not lead the world in the next decade or two with respect to biotech and biosciences and the development of a whole host of sciences with respect to the cures for diseases. Stem cell research is something that, in my view, is this president's one of his worst legacies. Worst legacy. The issue of providing stem cell research, I respect those that have religious views that may be different from mine. I do. But that's not the issue. The issue is whether or not the United States government will invest in the opportunity